So, does anyone care to touch on this further?
Torah says before you attack, offer them peace. Send a message and say, listen, let's count the cost. Let's not go to war. So Yeshua takes that principle into the New Testament and says, if someone strikes you on the cheek, remember, in Hebrew culture, the strike on a cheek was a personal insult.
My name's Jerry. I left MAGA, and in this episode, I'm going to talk to you some more about Shane Vaughn. Now, if you don't remember who Shane Vaughn is, I want to remind you with this little clip right here.
We would never be this defensive of Donald Trump if you would not have forced us into this cult mentality. Yeah, we would now fight for Donald Trump. Why? We believe in justice. And when we see a man that God's put his hand on being attacked night and day, you are forcing us to look like a cult. We're patient and steadfast in our support of a single man. We are cult followers. Yes, we follow a man. Yes, we do. We drank the Kool-Aid and it's orange.
Okay, so I just wanted to remind you of that before I bring you this. Now, I listened to it earlier, and it sounds to me like what Shane Vaughn is providing is some tactics and techniques on thought stopping processes. This was actually posted 2 days ago, March 2nd, 2026. Today is March 24th, 2026. And so, yeah, let's get in here and see what Shane's got to say. This is about 7 minutes long, so this video shouldn't be too horribly long.
Hello, world. I want to talk to you real quickly about something that is very confusing in the Bible.
Okay, so let's do that, Shane.
And the reason I started thinking about this is because of Benjamin Netanyahu. Of course, it's all over the interweb. His response about Jesus Christ versus Genghis Khan.
Oh, well, this should be interesting then.
And I did an entire Substack on that, so I'm not going to deal with that right here. But you can always go to my Substack, professortodo.substack.com, and read my article about Benjamin Netanyahu.
Dr. Toto. I have no idea where he got that except for, I don't know, the only thing I can think of is The Wizard of Oz. You know, Toto, I don't think we're in Kansas anymore. Or I don't think we're in Kansas anymore, Toto. I forget exactly how the quote goes.
But it did get me to thinking. The question was posed to him, shouldn't you use more restraint, follow the teachings of Christ concerning turning the other cheek?
Well, yeah, I would think so.
Instead of being a warrior like Genghis Khan. And it was then that I realized that the entire Christian world has completely misunderstood the teaching of Christ concerning turning the other cheek.
Really? Okay. So, Shane, educate us.
I'd like to break it down for you. First of all, the Bible is perfect. It can never contradict itself.
It's always contradicting itself.
If it does, there is a problem, but it's not with the Bible. It's with your comprehension of what it's saying.
Oh, so if I can't understand it, I'm too dumb. So, I got problems with that. But let's see what else he has to say.
Remember, the New Testament comes from a foundation called Torah. We make a great mistake when we read the New Testaments.
Okay, so yeah, he's right about that. The first 5 books of the Old Testament, the Pentateuch, the Torah, and the Talmud. It's three different names for the same set of books. It's oh, good grief.
about turning the other cheek without paralleling it to the Torah, the first five books of the Bible. It's in those first five books where you find the mind of God, how he thinks. And one thing we find in the Torah is that Yahweh was a man of war.
That's right. He was. And that's why they lean into the old covenant. That's why they don't lean into the new covenant, where all those things were wiped away and a whole new system was set up.
It's what he called him, a man of war. We also find that he commanded his people to fight many, many, many times. And so when we get into the New Testament, Yeshua, the son of Yahweh, seems to say something totally, totally opposite.
Okay, so at this point, I just need to interject that the 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 word Yahweh was a placeholder in the Old Testament because it was considered a blasphemous taboo to speak the name of God.
Almost contradictory. He says, if your brother strikes you on the cheek, turn the other cheek to him. Well, most people ask the next question, what do I do when I run out of cheeks? And that is a good question. But let me explain. In the Torah, the Old Testament, there's a principle.
Now hold up. He's only counting those five books as the entirety of the Old Testament, or is he trying to just cat it? Oh, good grief!
And it says, if you're going to war, always offer peace first. If you're going into a war that's not of your making, you're not doing it for the wrong purpose, you're just doing it for survival, perhaps
You mean for if you're not doing it for the wrong purpose, like stealing somebody else's oil?
they're tormenting you. Torah says before you attack, offer them peace. Send a message and say, listen, let's count the cost. Let's not go to war. So Yeshua takes that principle into the New Testament and says, if someone strikes you on the cheek, remember, in Hebrew culture, the strike on a cheek was a personal insult.
No, it was not. No, it was not. It was a disciplinary method that was authorized to be used against one's wife or a woman. And turning the other cheek, as I was taught, was to put yourself in a subservient or feminine position. Because if you want to be first, you have to be last. So, also, the meek shall inherit the earth. That's not a warrior like mentality. This is anyway. Yeah, this is difficult.
It was not an act of war. It was an insult to you personally. I mean, after all, you can't get any more insulting than to be slapped on the cheek.
Wait, so getting slapped on the cheek is more insulting than having your body intimately violated. Good grief.
Yeshua was saying, make sure before you respond that you're not responding because you have been insulted or because you have been offended. Make sure that this is not about you and it's not about your ego.
Make sure it's not about you. Make sure it's not about your ego. Is he challenging the concept of self-defense, or is he trying to establish some sort of precedent leading up to self-defense? Like after you get both cheeks slapped, then you can do whatever? I'm confused by his lack of clarity so far. Maybe he'll be able to land this plane softly.
Turn the other cheek. In other words, absorb personal insults. Absorb the wrong that's done to you personally. But we have to remember there is a time for war. There is a time for justice. When you turn the other cheek, what you're saying is, I'm offering you peace. Please don't push this to a war. But
Isn't that what you're saying? I mean, there's a big difference between punching somebody else in the nose because they just punched you in the nose, or and going to war, which is an act of aggressive, lethal force.
if it is a righteous war and you have turned the other cheek and counted the cost and realized this is not about my ego, I can take a personal insult. However, a slap on the cheek is not attempted murder.
No, okay, I'll agree with him on that.
It's not manslaughter. It's
True,
not homicide.
true.
It's not a justified war.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Wait a minute. Uh, that terminology is, oh man. All right, where's he going with it?
For war to be justified, it has to be bigger than your ego and your insult. Yeshua is teaching you a lesson here.
Wait, wait, wait. It has to be bigger than you? Hang on, let's go back and double check that because it sounds to me like he's talking about it's okay to stand up for a marginalized group.
War. For war to be justified, it has to be bigger than your ego.
Huh. So if I was to take his advice and getting involved in something passionately because it's something that I agree with and it's bigger than my ego, like I don't know, standing up for trans rights or standing up against the idea of having a king installed in America. Yeah, no kings. Hands off all that stuff. Off everything. Oh my goodness. So yeah, okay.
And your insult. Yeshua is teaching you a lesson here. Stop. Absorb. It has nothing to do with if someone is attacking you physically, you can't defend yourself. Au contraire, there's a time for war, but your duty as a believer is to make sure that the war is justified, that it's righteous, that it's about something bigger than your personal insult, that it's harming other people.
Yeah, okay. So like protesting the removal of trans rights. Okay. Okay.
That it's causing damage, real damage. That's when you can go to war. But even then, there are restrictions in warfare.
Okay, so are trans people actually causing you any physical harm, Mr. Vaughn? Just asking for a friend.
It's called justice. And what Yeshua is saying, if someone slaps you on the cheek and you offer them peace, but they continue, then take it to the magistrates. Don't handle it yourself. Make sure your emotions are not controlling you, but the law is. The Torah.
Make sure that your emotions aren't. How often does your man Trump lose his cool and call people names and all that? And just rail on people, call them anything but nice. Um, what did Trump just say about Mueller dying? That wasn't anyway.
Torah is, in our case, the law of the land. Go to the district attorney, go to the courts.
Okay, so Trump's got 34 felony counts. What about that, Shane?
And if your church, if they're a member of your church, take it to the church. But don't make it about you personally.
If it's in the church, take it to the church. Okay, so this is how we got characters like Mike Bickle, who's been accused of physical abuses as well as spiritual and prophetic abuses. How about Trump's spiritual advisor Robert Morris, or how about Trump's spiritual advisor Paul? I should say former spiritual advisor Robert Morris, founder of Gateway Church in Dallas, Texas. Or what about his current spiritual advisor Paula White and all the affairs that she's had? And those are moral failings, as they would call them. But what's good for one is not good for another. Gotcha.
So I hope that helps. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day.
Hmm, man, I don't know if that was as painful for you as it was for me, but these characters are just absolutely unhinged and totally disconnected. Now, you can see that was on Shane Vaughn's channel. Um, I will go ahead and include the link in the description so that folks can go grab this stuff. But I would mark Shane Vaughn as a very dangerous individual. That's why I put that other clip up there first. Um, so I know this is a relatively short video. Thanks for taking the time to check it out. If you like it, please give me a thumbs up. Share it with somebody that you think might need to see it. And if you haven't, add a subscribe. All those things help the algorithm and help get the word out. And I've got at least a couple of people that are saying more folks should hear my stuff. And I would like that. That's what I'm trying to do. I've given up on trying to draw people out of MAGA. So now what I'm trying to do is educate people on the outside who don't have these reference points. And having been a MAGA live streamer, I've got a little bit different take than like Jenny Gage, ex-Mormon trad wife, went through MAGA through Christian nationalism, and then now she's where she is. Monty Mader, Tim Whitaker, April LaJoy, the list goes on of individuals who have left MAGA and left the Christian nationalist movement and Christian dominionism. Um, Eric Schwarzinski. You know, there's we all have our own story because we all had our own experience because we all came from different arenas. And Tim Whitaker grew up in the Assemblies of God Church, like I did, but we had very different experiences simply because of the fact that within the Assemblies of God Church, the pastor is the head of the congregation. There is no unified messaging like there is within the Methodist Church or within the Evangelical Lutheran Churches of America, the ELCA, where they'll put out a biblical passage and say, write your message on this, because they're all working from the same page instead of, every church has its own message, which is another reason I think why Christian nationalism is so disjointed, because you've got such radically different individuals as Rick Joyner and Greg Locke and G. Jakes and Paula White and Todd White, no relation there. Um, let's see, who else can I think of? Robert Morris, Ken Copeland, Hank Kunneman, Kent Christmas, Mark Driscoll. They're all so different in their styles, and so understanding the various nuances is going to be complicated for anybody that does not have some sort of reference point, which is why I spend so much of my time listening to survivor stories of individuals who have left other flavors of the Christian nationalist meta conglomerate that has formed the cult of MAGA. It's just crazy. Anyway, until the next video, please take care of yourself so that you can take care of others, get the rest that you need, and keep track of those fluids.
Everybody wants to